requested that I do a bookshelf tour, so that's what I'm going to do. I will show you my shelf, and I'll probably just show you some of the other books I have and how I store them. You're going to find out that I have way too many books. So let's just get right into it. Okay, let me zoom out a bit. So this is my bookshelf. It's right here against this wall. It's a pretty solid bookshelf. On the top, I'll just show you, I have a lot of old textbooks. So these are all my old psychology textbooks, and then it kind of goes into the texts that I had for my graduate classes. It's so annoying the way that a lot of the classes texts was you bought the material, the pages, in shrink wrap, but it was all loose leaf, so I had to buy a binder to put it in. And then these are some more textbooks from undergrad. So in undergrad, I minored in psychology, so these are all from my psychology classes. And then my major was in visual arts, but I was concentrating in art history, so I have a lot of art history books. These are actually very, very, very filthy. And then just a couple more texts from my graduate courses. My vinyls, I used to actually keep them tucked in between these spaces, but I tried to puppy-proof my room a little bit after I got the puppy, and I just didn't want to risk these getting chewed, so I moved them up here. And then these are all of my Korean texts. I studied Korean for 2 semesters, so some of them are from college, and then some are just books that I had. I don't really keep up with studying Korean. It's something I've always wanted. I've always been really interested in learning languages in general, and I used to have all my texts from, I studied French for many years, and I took a semester of Spanish. I enrolled in a semester of Hebrew, but I dropped it before that, there's like that 2-week window where you can drop a class without getting penalized. Yeah, but I had to get rid of a lot of my language textbooks when I moved back home. I've mentioned a few times I had to downsize drastically. So we'll go down to the first shelf. These are all just DVDs, just 2 layers of DVDs, and it's a kind of a random assortment. These books should actually be more down there, but I've had to move some things around. I did try to, I sort of have, not really, but I try to group things a little bit, but mostly how I group them is, that's my metaphysical new age section. There's all my stuff on Tudor history, and then everything else I just try to sort by size. But I did recently, I pulled out some books, and I might do a video, like an unhauling video, but I am trying to cull my collection a little bit, so I was pulling out books that I knew I didn't want to reread, and I'll probably share that. So this was the like short section. A lot of these books are older books that I had read around high school or early college. Some of these were required reading, like The Stranger, and I don't think there's anything else on here. But yeah, a lot of these books I read in high school. This one I read actually in elementary school, which, I don't know, I feel like that's almost too young. My dad was the one that got it for me and recommended I read it. Again, I think that was a little too young, but I've never forgotten it, and I've read it a few times since. My dad got me, as I got a little bit older, he got me the rest of the books. Dave Pelzer wrote, I think 3 more books after this, or 2 more books. Oh yeah, I don't think I said what this is. It's A Child Called It. It's Dave Pelzer's recounting of his life. He had one of the most horrific cases of abuse in the state of California. It's a very harrowing read, so you know, I would recommend it, but only if that's something you would have the stomach for. A lot of these thick books I read recently, these books I read last year. This one took me forever. This one took me not very long. Very good. The Stand. I need to read more Stephen King. The Lord of the Rings trilogy and The Hobbit. This is a really nice edition that I got as a gift from my dad. I'm pretty sure he got this at Costco. Let me just show you really quick. It's so cute. It's really good. I love this this edition, this collection. Oh, I'll put that back. Yeah, and a couple dictionaries. My French one and just a small English dictionary. This is from high school. And my kalimba. And here's my illustrated Harry Potter. I do have the fourth one, but I lent it out, so that's what this gap is. I wanted to do a reading of this for a video. Salome. I love Aubrey Beardsley, and I also love Oscar Wilde. So maybe someday. And the illustrations are really good. Treasury of Art Nouveau. Art Nouveau is my favorite time period. Or not time period, but my favorite art period. The Player's Handbook. I really wanted to get into D&D. I had found a group to play with, but it didn't really work out. I still have the handbook though, because I'm determined to find my group of people that I can play with. Some way, somehow it's gonna happen. I am speaking it into existence. And then my yearbooks. These books are all from required reading from my English 100 class I took freshman year of college. All great books. These three plus, actually, not Mouse wasn't. Mouse was required reading for an art history type class I took. I forget what it was about, but we read this, and we also had to read, I can't remember what it was, but it was a book on graphic novels. It was a very meta book. I can't remember what it was called. I no longer own it, but I read that. So I read these two, V for Vendetta, Geek Love, and The Handmaid's Tale. Handmaid's Tale, not Handmaiden, The Handmaid's Tale. This is actually bugging me how it sticks out. I put that there because it fit, and I'm like not really motivated to rearrange the bookshelf, at least anytime soon. But I want to read the Testaments, and I had shown this. My two Paulo Coelho books. I think I've read all of the books here except for the Testaments, but I haven't really read like from astrology on. So then you go down, and I bought this book fucking twice, and I have never done Whole30. I've tried many times, and I don't make it very far at all. I make it like, the first time I ever tried it, I think I made it 4 days, and then every subsequent time I've never made it past the 3-day mark. But I had this book, and then when I moved, like a couple years ago, this was one of the books that I got rid of, and then earlier this year, I really had a hankering to try Whole30 again, but I couldn't do it. I will do it one day maybe, but not anytime soon. This is actually a sketchbook, which belongs here. And I won't show you, but I could do a video if you would like. I was in a program called IB for high school, and how that works is your last 2 years of high school, like, you have to take set types of classes, if that makes sense, and you have to take an IB elective. So I took IB art, and in that year you have a sketchbook, these two sketchbooks right here, and they're your research workbook, and you would just make spreads basically. And so I remember how fun that was, and I thought I wanted to do that again, and I still do, but I never did. I started this one spread on tigers because they feel kind of significant to me. I never finished it, clearly. And this is probably a year ago I started it. So that's sad. And this is just something I had to do for a project for my human development class I took over the summer. It's a play area for a little kid. Anyway, so that does not belong there. But I just shoved it there. I have an art book, a magazine. This is so old. I remember I got this in high school. I bought 2 copies. One so I could but cut out pictures, because I used to decorate my walls with posters and magazine pictures, like just a lot. But then I wanted another copy to keep, since I really, really loved the Beatles in high school, and I still do. And this book, actually, a friend had lent me in college, and then we kind of stopped being friends. It was really awkward, and I never gave this back to him. I never even read it, but I did read it finally last year. It was so sad. I think his name is written on it. Yeah, his name is written on the inside. So if if you're seeing this and a girl in college never returned this to you, I'm truly sorry. I will mail it back to you if you want, but that's probably not very likely that he is watching that. I was obsessed with Post Secret in high school. This was actually a Christmas gift a friend got me. This was the most meaningful gift that I had received at that point, because I mentioned Post Secret once to my best friend in high school, like over the summer, whenever I had found out about it, and 6 months later or something, she just remembered that I had mentioned it and got me this book, and I think that was in 10th grade. So this book is still really special just for that reason. This was my brother's book, and then when he moved out, he left a lot of his stuff behind, and I took it. I went through this phase where I was, really into communism. I can't explain it. I started to read this in high school, and I don't think I even made it 100 pages in, but I would like to finish it. Let's see, I haven't read that. I did like this. I showed you these. I loved Flannery O'Connor in high school. I had read some of her short stories, but I have not read this entire book. I would like to. Speak was one of my favorite books in middle school. Timeline I read maybe in 5th grade. I don't remember, but when the movie came out, which was early 2000s, I was so excited because I had read the book, and I remember it so vividly, because it was probably one of my earlier experiences of being disappointed by a film adaptation of a book. The movie sucked, but I still think the book rocks. I haven't read it in years and years, but I should reread it. This book was such a slog to get through. I read it in college. I would like to reread it. I like the edition. It's super beat up because I have traveled with this book. This was another book that was required reading for high school. This book a friend gave me I haven't read. I would like to. I got these 2 books for Christmas 3 years ago or 2 years ago, and I loved them. I liked this, The Sun Also Rises, and then these are some of my Korean books. None of these are mine. These all are my dad's, but I have reclaimed them because I wanted them. I don't think he's even read them. And I'm specifically talking about the Korean books. I've got Koreans to Remember, Shaman's Housewives and Other Restless Spirits, Women in Korean Ritual Life, Guide to Korean Culture, and the Anthology of Korean Literature. These should be grouped more, but I try to keep it level, so that's why I have these randomly, but it's not even. But this one, Hey Nostradamus, I have not read. This is a souvenir from one of the most awkward dates of my life, we'll just say. We went to in theory it was like a nice date, but it just was with someone I wasn't really feeling, and I wasn't really sure how to extricate myself from the situation. So it ended up being a really long date, and yeah, like in theory it was a really cool date, and it started I think with brunch, and then it moved to there was a really cool looking bookstore nearby, and so I bought it just to buy it. It seemed interesting. Haven't read it. I have not read this, but I bought it because I watched the movie that was created. When was that? Like 4 years ago or 5 years ago, and that movie was. I loved it. I found it to be so moving. It's based on this book, which is her memoir on Vera Brittain's experiences during the First World War. Lady Chatterley's lover. I think I mentioned this. This had to have been in my overview for 2020 because I read it last year. And then you go down to the bottom. Okay, and then down at the bottom, Harry Potter books, plus this one. And this is not the original one that I had. The original one that I had fell apart. It just fell apart because the original book that I had, I got when I was, I think, 7 years old, and it was the paperback version. So it got super beat up. I remember picking it out because I had seen, we had a family friend. What is this? Oh, it's like the end of a wrapper. We had a family friend who had children a little bit older than me, and so one of the girls, I really looked up to her. And I remember she was reading this book, and so my family and I were moving across the country, and we were going to do a road trip. We made a road trip out of it, and so I just remember my mom taking me and my brother to the PX and letting us pick a book to take with us for our, to read in the evenings or whatever. And this is the book that I picked. And there's a little bookmark in it because I actually read the first chapter, I think, the beginning of this month or the end of last month or something like that, and then I just kind of fell out. Like, I thought I would want to reread the series, but then I realized I don't actually want to reread it right now. I mean, I do, but I feel too much pressure to read other stuff. I have never actually read any of the Chronicles of Narnia, but I've had this since high school. This was required reading. I never read it. Anna Karenina, or Anna Karenina, however you want to pronounce it. I wrote, so for IB English, you have to write a world literature paper, and I wrote mine about how horses were symbolic of the affairs in Anna Karenina and Madame Bovary. I totally bullshitted it so badly, but it did really well. I never even read this book, but I still wrote about it, and that was the IB way. If you were an IB, you probably are familiar with this saying that was a thing, and it was IB, therefore IBS. So if you know what I'm talking about, if you are in the IB program, please let me know. And the cool thing, though, about IB is it's not just like an American thing. It stands for International Baccalaureate, so it's something that's in, like, there are IB schools around the world. I have not read Wuthering Heights, but really want to. Have not read London, but I actually got this. It was at half price, I think, so it's pretty cheap. And I got it because I remember my dad had this book, and I just remember reading the synopsis as a kid and thinking it sounded really interesting, but was so intimidated by how big it was that I didn't want to try to read it. So I'd like to read this eventually. And this is another thing I got at half price. I loved half price. I used to live really close to one, and I don't even think there's one now in my state, but yeah, it's a book on Nick Drake. I love Nick Drake. And this is my Tudor collection. It's not that expensive. I had some more Tudor, what would you call it? Historical fiction books. One's by Philippa Gregory. I think I had 3 of her books, but she's kind of trash. So, I mean, I got it. I read it. I just wasn't really a huge fan of her writing, so I don't know why I had 3 of her books, but yeah, those were books I also culled, but these are the ones I kept. I've read bits and pieces of this one. This was actually a Christmas gift when I was in middle school. Okay, maybe you will also have this experience, but when I was in elementary school, I loved the Dear America series, and they had a special version just on royal, like young royals in history, and it was called the Royal Diaries. And when I was in the 3rd grade, I read the diary for Elizabeth I of England, and I was so intrigued by the way that it starts. It introduces her background, and she talks about her mother, Anne Boleyn. So I was so intrigued by who was this person, and it's like a lifelong interest I've had. So in middle school, this was my gift for Christmas. I was really into history growing up, and I still am, but I was much more obsessive about it as a kid. I really enjoyed these novels by Jean Plady. I was really into her in high school. I haven't really read too much of these. I feel like, okay, I definitely read this. I had a biography on Elizabeth the Great, but I must have culled that one as well, and I did read that. And then this one I got like a year, maybe 2 years ago, The Creation of Anne Boleyn. So it's just like another biography. The Other Tudors, I think that is a biography on the royal bastards. The Life and Death of Anne Boleyn I have not read. I'm really looking forward to it, though. This was probably one of my favorite books, though, in high school. The one on Anne Boleyn, The Lady in the Tower by Jean Plady, and then this one is about Mary Queen of France. It's called The Tudor Princess. And then I just have, these are books, so these are books I want to cull as well. I actually haven't read this, The Casual Vacancy. J.K. Rowling, I was a really big fan of hers, and then she ended up being kind of a piece of shit, so now I'm not as keen, and so I bought this book a long time ago. I never read it. I've heard it's not that great, but I want to read it since I have it, and I did buy it, but I want to read it, and then I want to get rid of it. And then this, I wanted to pull just because I wanted to reread certain parts. Sometimes it's good to just, keep reading things that you've read that you need to remind yourself of. As you can probably tell, money is something I'm working on, like my relationship with money. And maybe I can talk more about that in a video. But as I'm filming this, I'm realizing how dusty everything is, so sorry about that. But I just have some tarot books here. The book that I'm currently reading. This is my self-help section. I don't really like to say self-help just because I don't like the way that it sounds. This is just lotion. That doesn't belong there. It belongs over here. I prefer something more like personal development or self-growth, but I'm very interested in books that help with my personal development. So I've read Capacity. I mean, it was okay. The problem is, and maybe you can relate to this, but I feel like a lot of the books that fall under the genre of self-help tell me things I already know. It's just that I'm too, I don't know, lazy or not disciplined or whatever. I can't see them through. Attached, I really wanted to read. I think I mentioned this in a video in the past is present. Running on Empty. I really, really recommend this. Look up child emotional neglect or childhood emotional neglect, CEN. Look it up. If it resonates with you, read this book. This book I need to call The Assertiveness Guide for Women. I'm not really an assertive person, so I wanted to read something to just help me to reflect on ways to grow in that area, and this book was so pointless. Boundaries. I feel like this is just an honesty hour, and I'm telling you all my weaknesses. I think boundaries are important, and it's boundary setting and keeping those boundaries can be difficult, so I haven't read the book, but I want to. I liked this book. It was okay. I mean, yeah, it was okay. Nothing super groundbreaking. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, but good to read. The Body Keeps the Score. I very much enjoyed reading this. How to Win Friends and Influence People. That's a classic. I did like that, and I do try to incorporate, things from that. The job that I have, I interact a lot with people that I'm not familiar with. Like, I have to call people and talk to them on the phone a lot, so it's nice for me to read things that tell me, like, how to be a normal human, because I think I'm a sociable person and a personable person, but it's not necessarily my natural state, especially with people I don't know or I'm not comfortable with. I tend to be more shy and reserved, so I have to branch out of that. I have a lot of Robert Johnson books, just because I think he presents really interesting psychological concepts, especially things that are in line with Jungian psychology, which I personally find very interesting, and he presents them in a way that is really accessible and also very quick to get through. So I've got a chunk of those. This one in the middle actually is not. It's called Self-Care for the Self-Aware. But yeah, these are all thin books. This I took from an Airbnb I was staying at. It's like a book of psychological self-tests, and then you can, learn a little bit more about yourself. It's interesting. So this one, Getting the Love You Want, that is one my therapist recommended a couple years ago. I was in therapy. Highly recommend being in therapy if you've never done it. Okay, that book's not gonna go in there, so we'll just put it there. But what's this? Oh, it's a lighter. I was looking for this lighter. See? Pink moment. Still having a pink moment. Yeah, recommend therapy. This is really just good if you feel like you have relationship troubles, whatever they may be. I think everyone has a lot of hang-ups when it comes to getting into relationships, because there is something that is inherently vulnerable about opening yourself up and entering into a serious or a committed or an emotionally significant relationship. And so reading this book gives you a little bit of insight, and it really all ties back to your childhood. I really do think that. This is the Technical Manual and Dictionary of Classical Ballet. I always wanted to get into ballet. Like, as a kid, I really wanted to take ballet classes, but I was too shy to actually, like, ask my parents and want to follow through with that. But I did take a few ballet classes as an adult a long time ago, like 3 years ago or 2 years ago. I can't remember. It was 2018, 1920. That was all. Yeah, that was 3 years ago. Yes, I still count with my fingers, and yeah, I'm terrible with mental math. I would like to get back into it because I really enjoyed it. I made a video about this. I love her on Miss Bosch. This is another sketchbook. This book is so old. I've had this since 2011. I'll show you. It started off being kind of my tattoo idea. Actually, I have an idea for a tattoo that I still really like this. It's like flowers and then the sun, and it was kind of inspired by, there's a line from, what's the song? Money, Power, and Glory by Lana, where she says the sun also rises on those who fail the call. I don't know, that line has always stuck with me. So I had that idea to do something like this, with the sun and then some flowers, because I love flowers, and then and the Roman numeral for 19, since that corresponds with the sun card. I don't know, the sun has become more meaningful to me as I've gotten older, and then I have got a lot of I write really bad poetry, some more tattoo ideas. I thought this would be a cute addition to go with this, since it's like a Beatles theme. So this is Jai Guru Deva Om. It's a line from across the universe, and then right after he says that, he says, nothing's gonna change my world. I know that's really cheesy. Some pictures of Mac. I actually have a Mac idea. It's not one of these. I still think this is cute. And to show you, see, it's my tattoo. It's like pretty much the same design, which I like. Not the lettering. I didn't do the lettering. The tattoo artist did, but he pretty much just took the drawing that I brought in, and I love that because when I look at the it really feels like a piece of me. I got this tattoo when I was 19, so it is definitely not as clean looking now after 10 years, but oh, so I drew this in, probably around 2011 whenever I got this book, and now I have it. I don't not like this tattoo, and I don't regret the tattoo, but I do recognize how much of a basic bee this makes me. And the sad thing is, it's, well, not sad, but I wasn't even that young when I got it. I was like, well, I guess I was 23. I don't know, I still like it. I feel like my arm needs more, though. And then this one is just a book on the Pacific Northwest Ballet. I keep my poetry books here, so what is this? This composition notebook that I keep stuff for, like, witchy shit. We won't get into that. Edgar Allan Poe, this is my dad's, but I took it with me the first time I moved out, and he didn't notice, so it's mine now. Then I've got my Leonard Cohen Book of Longing, Lana Del Rey's first poetry book, waiting for the second Lana, Violet Bent Backwards Over the Grass. I think, what was this, Warsaw-shire, Teaching My Mother How to Give Birth. I talked about this in a video, didn't I? I loved it. I think I did. Ariel, Celia Plath. I've been meaning to do some more poetry readings with these two. And then Pablo Neruda, the poetry of Pablo Neruda. I'm working my way through it, but not really. If you follow me on Goodreads, you'll see I've been reading this since November of last year. Oh, this is my lucid dreaming book that I haven't touched since I last started reading it. I'll get to eventually. The Book of Art. This I got at a grocery store for $5 in college, I think, maybe high school. And so yeah, it's exactly what it sounds like. Mad Men's Carousel. I don't know if I've ever talked about this, but it's like an unofficial companion. And so I did read this. The last time I rewatched Mad Men, I would read each corresponding episode guide. I read the first lesson. It's like 10 lessons, I think. Academy X, Lessons in Art and Life. I don't even remember when I got this. It's pretty old. I've had it for probably a decade at least. Need to finish it. This is actually my therapist. She was not like a normal therapist. She was a cool therapist. But she was kind of into new agey stuff too. I mean, not like she was pushing it on me, but if I talked about it, she would let me talk about it. But my therapist had this book, and I thought it was so cool, so I got it. And then I found out about this one, and so I got this as well. I just think, I don't know, I think it's really fun. I'm not saying that this stuff is truth. Obviously, it's not scientific, but it's fun. It's lighthearted fun. And then these are just all of my small books. Another post-cigarette book. I love this one. Oh no, why is it stuck? Okay, that's weird. This is my little 33 1/3 book on In the Aeroplane Over the Sea. One of my favorite albums. I have not read this. This is my dad's. Some Ayn Rand. This is from high school. Never read it. I think this was required reading in 9th grade. Never read it. The Fountainhead. Never read it, but I don't know why I would buy a second Ayn Rand book when I haven't even read the first, but that's just how I am. Franny and Zooey. Zooey or Zoe? I think it's Zoe, but I always want to say Zooey. I've only read it the one time, a long time ago. I think I read this in college. I would like to reread it. I have not read The Princess Bride, but I really want to. Picture of Dorian Gray, loved it. Slaughterhouse 5. I did like it, but I don't really remember it as well. And it was kind of confusing. I need to reread it. The Joy Luck Club, loved it. Dracula, I'm really not that great. The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Noontime. This book is okay. I have to tell this story. I lent this book to a friend in high school, and I'm pretty sure she took this with her on vacation, like overseas. And when she gave it back to me, it was falling apart like this. Actually, it might have been college, not high school. I got this book, though, in high school, and I don't want to get rid of this book for two reasons. One is because I got this book in Korea, and so, I don't know, like, it's just, I like it for that reason. And then had, pretty sure, yeah, I had a band that I really liked in college sign it, and so I don't want to get rid of it for that reason. I don't know why I had them sign it. I had it on me and I wanted them to sign something, and I asked them to sign my book. The band was Miniature Tigers, by the way. I haven't really kept up with them, and I'm pretty sure their lineup has changed. I think they're still together, but their lineup has changed. Night was required reading, I think, in 9th grade, and I did read this, actually. It is, I don't think I read it since, but I bought this a few years ago because I did really like it. And The Diary of a Young Girl. This is another book someone lent me, and I just never gave back. I'm sorry, but I think we all do that, right? Like, I definitely have some books I've lent to people I never got back, and I really do try. This was like high school that happened. Now I'm really good about returning things, but I didn't do it intentionally. It just kind of happened. I did not read this one, Spark Joy, but I did read the other book she had. I had it, and then that was another book I got rid of. I mentioned this before. Loved it. And this book, too, I got in, I think, high school. Because, again, big Beatles fan. Alright, this video is turning out to be so long. But the last thing I want to do, I'm not going to go through every book, because most of these books are the books I haven't read. But, it's a lot. So I have not read any of these books. Some of these books, I think these three, the top three, those are my dad's, and David Copperfield. But I want to read them, so I have them here in my room. All books that I showed recently. Well, most of them. Again, more books that I've shown recently. Not this one. This one used to be on the shelf, but I got this one. I want to read it, but before I read it, I want to read Jane Eyre? Is it Eyre? I'm not sure. This was actually a gift from a family friend in middle school as a Christmas gift, and I read about half of it. Like, wherever the creases stop is when I stopped reading it for whatever reason, so I want to finish it. I want to reread it, finish it, then read that, and then some more books that I haven't read. Christmas Carol was my dad's, but actually Their Eyes Were Watching God. That was a required reading for high school, and I kind of read it, but I had a really hard time with it because of the way that the speech is written out. So it's one I want to try reading again. The Chrysanthemum and the Sword. This is also my dad's, and I have it in my room because it's mentioned on Mad Men, and that's just, that's how I am. This is actually one I gave my dad as like a Christmas gift, I think, a long time ago, high school, college, A Very Irregular Head. It's just a biography on Syd Barrett, and I wanted to read it. This is one I won't take this with me because that would not be nice. These are all books I have read, so I won't really, you can see them. And then I think these are also yeah, so these two books here, these are all books that I've read kind of recently, so you've probably seen these in videos. And then these are all books I need to read, plus the handful of books on my shelves that you saw. That was quite a long video. It was way more than you probably asked for, but I hope that was interesting to you. And if you read any of the books that I mentioned that I haven't read, let me know what you think. I feel like I have so many books that I need to read that I'm almost overwhelmed. Like I have too many choices, and that's usually when I end up rereading something I've already read, like why I started rereading Harry Potter. But no, I don't want to reread any books I've already read until I get through everything. So let me know what you think. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for spending this time with me. I hope that you are doing super duper well. Hope that you are taking care of yourself as always. Remember to get enough sleep. That's my message for today, because I have not been getting enough sleep this week and it hurts. So please take care of yourself. Drink water, eat right, sleep. Really try to make sure you're taking care of yourself. I know sometimes that's easier